1970 was the middle of the Cold War era. The US was a democratic superpower, and nations that weren't interested in communism tended to want to be their friend. The post-World War II economy was strong because of the amount of money that the war generation put into savings, combined with the fact that the world was still heavily involved in reconstruction. Keep in mind that 1970 was as far removed from World War II as we are from 9/11. The US was still overproducing due to the wartime build-ups. Things cost more now because boomers are required to invest in order to retire. Combine that with the false promises of globalization, and you have generated a hyper-rich class whose only real career is tax evasion. In the 70s, boomers were young, unions were strong, and the technical advances in the aftermath of World War II were reaching consumers. In the 80s, things started going downhill economically. Reagan introduced trickle-down supply-side economics. The Cold War ended, resulting in a few short years of prosperity that quickly ended with 9/11. Women were entering into the workforce. Boomers deluded themselves into believing that everything they achieved was simply the result of their hard work and gumption, and not growing up in an era of massive reconstruction and development that occurred globally. Baby boomers could drop out of college, spend 10 years living in a commune and smoking weed. And by the 80s, they were yuppies with a briefcase and a great job, and a home that is now worth millions. This isn't exceptional. I have older relatives who did exactly this. When they wanted that nice job in the 80s, they just cut their hair, hit the bricks, and within 2 weeks had a high-paying job which was also stable and lasted for decades. Those who grew up in a paradigm are well suited to criticize its inconsistencies. Boomers have gotten away with nothing less than the complete genocide of Western civilization because boomers have lead poisoning, and they're mentally stuck in the world 30 to 40 years ago. They're children in adult bodies, exactly like the Disney princesses that are modern women. I always think of the Jordan Peterson chapter on lobsters when it comes to this. Not saying I'm a fan of him, but it's interesting. Basically, lobsters who become dominant in their youth don't develop the part of their brain that triggers anxiety because they don't need it. Therefore, they never second-guess their instinct. Lobsters that don't become dominant straight away develop that part because they need it to escape threat. Even if they become dominant later, they still have that anxiety part of their brain, even if the impulse part of the brain develops later as well. Boomers are like dominant lobsters. They took over society young and have been running things their way since. They don't recognize threats as a result, so all the signs of society breaking down, scams, and so on, just doesn't register with them on the same level. Not a single one of them can relate to any issues anyone under the age of 40 may have, in any shape or form, because the dating, the job market, and the world as a whole is just that alien. Then there's those who crave media validation. Since boomers come from the pre-cynicism era, they have no concept of cringe, and thus never see the true pathetic nature of their virtue signaling. Boomers would drink the blood of their own kids if he could get a mainstream media outlet to congratulate them for it. And in a metaphorical sense, they already did this. Boomers allowed 100 million foreigners to come to America for cheap wages instead of paying millennials a living wage. I'd also like to know, why do they hate nature so much? They are to blame for why we don't see bees and butterflies like we used to as kids. A boomer isn't happy with nature unless the only thing there is perfectly manicured grass. Why do they need leaves blown into the streets by servants and every tree or lilac bush in the neighborhood cut down? I've seen them dumping herbicides into ponds to get rid of water lilies, and then fake blue dye to stop the algae growing in ponds because the water lilies used to eat their own of phosphates. Why can't a pond have water lilies? They're native here. I had 2 boomers getting red in the face trying to tell me why a lawn needs to be mowed. Their reasons were, "This is what's always been done. My dad did it." Honestly, they're like orcs who hate beauty, and every day I see them ruining a perfectly nice natural place for a lawn, or to be more open. Honestly, pesticides should not be legally sold to boomers at big box stores. They don't have the judgment to use it. They love cutting down trees and poisoning or ripping up every plant. They don't even know what plants are. To them, everything but grass is a weed. I know it's a Reddit thing, but I love how mad the native gardening movement makes boomers when the millennial cottagecore chicks plant stuff just for the bees. Now, you see, there's many types of millennials. This brings me to my next point. Boomers are distinct, in that they are more homogeneous than any other generation. This has made their entire culture out of conformity and ostracization. It's what led to the modern culture of ending an acquaintance the moment you have any disagreement. They see their kids as competition rather than children. Brainwashed cowboy wannabes. I got mine, you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, buckaroo. Those westerns were the Marvel movies of their generation. They only care about their retirement. It's the final step of the American dream that they were raised to believe in. And it's doubly important because their retirement leads up to their end of life, care and death. Have you ever noticed how blindly they trust TV news? You could show them literal video evidence debunking something, but they will call you crazy because you aren't the dude in the TV. If you go against the man in the box, they'll become angry and violent even. They are heavily brainwashed. You can show them the truth and they'll fall back into their known patterns. It's crazy how their generation has changed. My mother used to tell me in the 2000s that everything in the internet is a scam. I should not have a username with my name on it. Now she is liking AI posts and she actually lost money to a fake website scam. Now I have to be the one to tell her many things on the internet are a scam. Then there's just this. I don't even know what to call this phenomenon I'm about to describe, okay? So my friend's mom freaked out when I came over and used their dishwasher to clean up after myself. It was the only thing she would do in their household because it was easy and simple, and she did it for one reason. Only so she can complain about it and act like she's contributing semi-divine value to the family without actually putting any real effort in. Yes, weaponized laundry. When I started my corporate job, the main boss of our branch was about 3 years to retirement. He basically stagnated the branch, refused all projects, requests for staff raises, because to him, what mattered was accumulating as much wealth as possible to clock out in 3 years. If the company suffers, doesn't matter, he'll be cruising in his retirement. While he was there, he'd just golf all the time, ignoring important emails and refusing any requests for finance. Luckily, I got a promotion and did a sideways placement at a position in another branch inside a business. Now he posts comments on LinkedIn about how the next generation should do better. Thankfully, they'll be gone in 20 years tops.